Welcome, UPSC aspirants. Grab your notepads because today we are tracking the definitive constitutional chronology of exactly how India's internal borders have evolved from 1956 right up to the modern day. You know, if you look at a political map of India just after independence and then compare it to the map you've probably got hanging on your study wall right now, they look completely different. And that's because the Indian Union is a living, breathing entity. In today's explainer, we're going to decode the exact amendments, the specific acts, and the crucial commissions that literally reshaped our nation. This is going to give you the absolute clarity you need to ace these questions in your exams.
Here is our quick agenda for today's explainer. We'll kick things off with the 1956 base map, move into the 1960s bifurcations, then the 1970s shifts in the Northeast and Sikkim. After that, we'll cover the 2000 to 2014 carve-outs, the recent 2019 and 2020 changes, and finally wrap up with modern demands. Consider this your chronological roadmap for both prelims and mains. Let's dive right in.
All right, starting off with Section 1, the 1956 base map and state reorganization.
To really anchor ourselves, we have to look at the massive constitutional overhaul that happened shortly after independence. Initially, integrating the princely states was kind of just a purely ad hoc arrangement. But following some massive demands to reorganize states based on language, a major shift had to happen. Through the States Reorganization Act and the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1956, that original, honestly rather clunky fourfold classification of states was completely tossed out. Instead, the map was redrawn, leaving us with exactly 14 states and 6 union territories on November 1, 1956. This right here is our ground zero. Every single state creation we talk about from this point forward is an addition to this specific baseline number.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 1960s bifurcations, focusing on the western and northern splits. So, the ink was literally barely dry on the 1956 reorganization when intense pressure for linguistic and cultural homogeneity started fracturing some of the larger states. First up, in 1960, the bilingual Bombay state was divided. It was split into Maharashtra for Marathi-speaking people and Gujarat, which officially became the 15th state of the Indian Union. Following that domino effect, in 1966, the state of Punjab was bifurcated, giving birth to Haryana as the 17th state. And then just a few years later, in 1971, the hill areas of Himachal Pradesh, which had actually been a union territory up to that point, were elevated to full statehood, becoming the 18th state.
Now, what is absolutely crucial to note for your mains is the specific trigger for that 1966 reorganization. The demand for a Punjabi Suba, basically a separate Sikh homeland, was raised by the Akali Dal under the leadership of Master Tara Singh. This agitation directly led to the Shah Commission's pivotal recommendations. This is a classic, textbook example of political pressure driving constitutional change. Ultimately, the Commission's recommendations separated the Punjabi-speaking areas to form a unilingual Punjab, carved out the Hindi-speaking areas to form Haryana, and merged the hill areas into the adjoining UT of Himachal Pradesh, all while setting up Chandigarh as a joint UT and shared capital.
Okay, shifting gears to Section 3, the 1970s Northeast and Sikkim, marking our eastward expansion.
The political map of Northeast India underwent just an absolute transformation in 1972. In that single year, the number of states in the Indian Union jumped all the way to 21. The 2 union territories of Manipur and Tripura gained full statehood, making them the 19th and 20th states. Meghalaya, which had previously just been an autonomous sub-state within Assam, was also bumped up to full statehood as the 21st state. Plus, the union territories of Mizoram and Arunachal Pradesh, which you might remember were originally known as the Northeast Frontier Agency, were officially carved out of the territories of Assam.
Let's actually slow down here for a second to look at Sikkim's incredibly unique 3-phase journey, because, well, we all know UPSC absolutely loves testing this. Until 1947, Sikkim was a princely state ruled by the Chogyal. When the British left, it became a protectorate, which basically meant India handled its defense, external affairs, and communications. Then, in 1974, Sikkim wanted a closer association, so Parliament passed the 35th Amendment, giving Sikkim the completely unique status of an associate state by inserting a brand new Article 2A. But this experiment was pretty short-lived. Following a 1975 referendum that abolished the Chogyal institution entirely, the 36th Amendment was passed, making Sikkim a full-fledged state, the 22nd state of the Indian Union.
So if you're taking notes, underline this next point. Always pair the 36th Amendment with Article 371F, When Sikkim officially became a full state, the 36th Amendment repealed that short-lived Article 2A in the 10th Schedule, and it firmly integrated Sikkim into the Indian Union by adding Article 371F. This new article provided some very special provisions regarding the administration of Sikkim, things like fixing its legislative assembly size and allotting it one seat in the Lok Sabha. This was absolutely vital for successfully addressing its specific regional needs.
Next up, Section 4, Administrative Carve-outs, spanning from 2000 to 2014.
Take a mental screenshot of this breakdown, because committing these parent-to-child state relationships to memory is essential prelims trivia. Fast forward to the turn of the millennium, and you'll notice the rationale for statehood shifted significantly away from language and much more toward regional administration and resource management. In the year 2000, 3 states were created almost back-to-back. Chhattisgarh was carved out of Madhya Pradesh as the 26th state, Uttarakhand from Uttar Pradesh as the 27th, and Jharkhand from Bihar as the 28th. Then, jumping to 2014, following some massive political mobilization, the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act bifurcated Andhra Pradesh, bringing Telangana into existence as the 29th state of the Union.
Which brings us to Section 5, recent changes from 2019 to 2020, focusing on some major divisions and mergers.
Pulling our timeline right up to the present day, I want you to notice the contrasting constitutional maneuvers used recently. First, we saw a historic division. Until 2019, Jammu and Kashmir enjoyed a special status under Article 370. That was abolished by a presidential order, extending all provisions of the Indian Constitution to the region, which subsequently led to its reorganization into union territories. Now contrast that complex division directly with a totally different approach in 2020, an administrative consolidation. To streamline governance and cut down on bureaucratic duplication, the union territories of Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu were merged into a single combined jurisdiction. So on one hand, a major political division, on the other, a straightforward merger just for administrative efficiency.
And finally, Section 6, Modern Demands for Smaller States.
So having traced over 60 years of boundary changes, from that baseline in 1956 right up to the administrative tweaks of 2020, we really have to ask an analytical question. What exactly continues to drive the demand for new, smaller states today? To figure that out, we look back at the 4 foundational principles laid down way back in 1956 by the States Reorganization Commission. While linguistic and cultural homogeneity heavily drove the bifurcations of the 60s, today's demands are actually heavily rooted in those last 2 points. People are seeking better financial, economic, and administrative governance. They want their state capitals closer to their districts for the equitable planning and promotion of their welfare. Honestly, language is no longer the primary issue here. Efficient administration is the name of the game.
As you finalize your notes today, I really want you to consider the deeply dynamic nature of the Indian polity. The map we've studied in this explainer is living, it's breathing, and it's completely subject to the evolving needs of its citizens. As administrative and economic demands inevitably shift, the next constitutional amendment altering our internal borders is really only a matter of time. So what does this mean for you? Keep a very close eye on the news. Constantly link current events back to Article 3 of the Constitution, and you will be perfectly positioned for your exams. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy studying.